block a vote on redistricting. If the GOP-backed map passes, it could add up to 5 new Republican seats to the U.S. House, a massive shift in power. So instead of staying and voting, the Democrats walked out, breaking quorum and halting the process. Governor Greg Abbott,
Okay, expect law enforcement to get in the way on this sale, but hopefully the phantom wedge we're lending you will get them out of it. Stick to the route, stop for nothing, make the drop.
To return to the Capitol or face serious consequences. They don't show, he says on a vote, Attorney General guidance, allowing him to declare their seats vacant and fill them immediate midterms.
If Donald Trump is allowed to do this, if he is allowed to once again cheat and get away with it, there is no stopping this. This will spread across the country.
This is un-American, and this is undemocratic. Republicans are stealing our democracy right before our very eyes.
But with Democrats out of the state, the vote that was scheduled to take place during the state's special session is at risk.
We know that you are making great sacrifices to resist the power grab.
Man, fuck all that bullshit. Fire all them bitches.
By Governor Abbott and by Texas Republicans. We will not let power go unchecked, right? Or let your voices and their voices go unheard.
The DNC chair Ken Martin displaying his support for Texas Democrats as well, saying, quote, "For weeks we've been warning that if Republicans in Texas want a showdown to cravenly protect Trump from an inevitable midterm meltdown, then we give them that showdown." The DNC is proud to support these legislators in standing up and showing real leadership. The proposal at issue could net 5 new GOP seats, redrawing lines to include more Republican-leaning areas in cities like Dallas and in Houston. You're going to see how it all plays out 3 p.m. in Texas. Back over to you, Jim.
All right, Todd, thank you.
You know, it's amazing to listen to Democrats complain about this. Nobody has mastered the gerrymandering game more than Democrats have, but I do think it is so telling. What makes people mount the barricades? Is it all the problems that their constituents are suffering through, or is it just their access to power? Well, they mount the barricades over their own power.
Well, they could have retained power if they played ball. This was always going to happen if the moderate Dems left and were replaced by, progressives. There's been many times where, past representatives said, okay, we'll give it to the Republicans, and so they allowed them to keep their own area because there was a way to do government with them. But now that you have the Crockett's of the world who don't want to play ball, they don't want to work for the constituents of both parties, now the Republicans are like, okay, kick rocks.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see where this goes. So he's got the threat out there to remove them if they don't return today. But by the way, if they don't return today and they wait, he can start another special session and that timeline starts over again. They'll have to go home eventually and go back.
Well, he can also call the Texas Rangers, NDPS, to come pull their tails back to Texas. He does have that authority as well. Hopefully it doesn't escalate to that. But they have chosen these offices, and it is part of the law in Texas.
Admittedly, that's not all. He's also threatening criminal prosecution under Texas bribery laws for any lawmakers or outside groups helping fund their absence. Abbott wrote, quote, "This truancy ends now. These absences were premeditated for an illegitimate purpose," unquote. But here's the twist. Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker is reportedly helping the Texas Democrats avoid arrest. Yes, another state governor in a 2028 local by some accounts is now involved brokering protection for lawmakers in the Illinois legislature. If that holds, Abbott says he'll use extradition powers to force a return. This is spiraling into a state versus state showdown. And the stakes couldn't be higher. Control of Congress may hang in the balance. The Texas House reconvenes Monday at 3 p.m. If those Democrats don't show, they may never get to vote again. Straight Kyle back with Display America. Please share your comments about this story.
Let's talk about this with Greg Jarrett, Fox News legal analyst, and Molly Hemingway, editor-in-chief of The Federalist. Welcome to both of you, Molly Hemingway. You first. What do you make of this thing? I don't know. Treachery, sordid, subversion. I mean, there's all kinds of adjectives can be used. This is one unsavory, sordid part of American history, that's for sure. How do you see it, Molly?
Objectively speaking, this is the worst scandal we've ever seen from our government in our nation's history. And these recent disclosures of information, I'm sure Greg will agree with me, as people who have covered the Russia collusion hoax for many years, are so helpful at understanding precisely how the hoax got going. And yes, it is this intelligence community assessment that is ordered by Obama at a time when actually the intelligence is suggesting the opposite of what that ICA eventually says. The intelligence community assessment. And what we learned from these documents is that people within the intelligence community were pretty much screaming from the rooftops that they did not believe that the intelligence supported the idea that Putin was trying to help Trump, and yet Brennan and other
Merriweather, for all your private security needs. How can I help?
That they were all wet and just
A helicopter has been dispatched to your location.
could get going. And of course, it was so damaging to that first Trump administration. It's a really big deal.
I mean, Greg Jarrett, a lot of people, look, I'm not expert. You wrote a book on the subject, Molly's written about it. I'm just saying, a lot of people, even in the intelligence area, even whistleblowers coming to the front now, they said this thing should have been dead and buried a long time ago. Question is, all right, Brennan, sure, Comey, sure. Okay, they probably wanted to resuscitate it. What role did former President Barack Obama play if there was a resuscitation of these phony charges that were, whatever we're going to call them, treacherous or sordid or subversion or whatever? What role did he play?
A role in all of this, overseeing it. And I think President Trump's venom is understandable as directed against Barack Obama and Comey, Brennan, and Clapper. I call them the three stooges of Obama's national security team. You know, the documents show that all of them were aiding and abetting the scheme cooked up by Hillary Clinton to frame Trump as a Russian asset, even though they knew at the outset it was all fabricated. Here's the thing, Larry. Instead of stepping forward and telling the truth to the American people in the summer of 2016 when they knew it, they kept silent. And they watched as James Comey launched his damaging investigation of Trump without any credible evidence. And these new declassified documents show how they scuttled an intel briefing that concluded there was no Russian interference and conspired to replace it with an intelligence assessment that said just the opposite. And then, to make matters worse, they inserted the phony dossier into that intelligence assessment, pretending it was true, even though the FBI had already debunked it. Clapper then leaked the dossier to CNN, and the mainstream media was often running, convicting Trump in the court of public opinion without ever a shred of any plausible evidence. It truly was the dirtiest trick in American political history.
You know, Molly, my history here is imperfect, to be sure, but as I recall the story, even before Mr. Trump was inaugurated in January of 2017, even before he was actually sworn in, Comey meets with him, Brennan meets with him, I don't know, Clapper was probably there, I'm not sure who all was there, but those guys were there. And they're telling him he's in deep trouble because of X, Y, and Z, even though X, Y, and Z were a pack of lies, and that they had resuscitated those lies, and then later on we found out that whistleblowers also said that they were a bunch of lies. But they actually went in before he was actually sworn in as president and told him they're going to go after him, and then just plagued most of his first term. I mean, really? How is this possible? How can this go unpunished? That's what I'm asking. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a cop. I'm a journalist. I just want to know, how can this possibly go unpunished?
Well, again, Obama may have immunity for what he did, but that is what is so interesting about this. That meeting that you're talking about was where they delivered this intelligence assessment to Obama and to Trump. The ordering of that assessment was done by Obama precisely so that it could be briefed to Trump and that it could be leaked that it was briefed to Trump. This is what got the entire Russia collusion hoax going. Normally an intelligence assessment would take months, maybe years to put together. They put it together in 2 weeks precisely so that CNN could leak the dossier and that Trump's presidency could be destroyed. Efforts to destroy a presidency are seditious, and this is a very serious issue for these leaders in the intel community, and I think that they should be much more worried about the legal consequences, unfortunately, than Obama should.
Yes, well, I love that word seditious. Got to put that back into the riff. That's a fabulous word. I was groping for that word for the last hour, so it's absolutely perfect. The word seditious. And Greg Jarrett, I mean, Steele was a lying paid informant who was actually fired. Now, they built that up. Hillary's campaign or the Hillary Foundation or something financed this whole thing. But Brendan knew that, didn't he? Comey knew that, didn't he? Did Obama know that the Steele dossier was a fraud to begin with? There were two meetings. July 28th was the first one at the White House. Obama was there, Comey, Brendan Clapper, Biden. And, Brendan had brushed over to tell him what Hillary had done. He invented this thing and had commissioned a dossier and was financing it. Steele was triple dipping. He was getting paid by the FBI, by Hillary Clinton's campaign, and the DNC. And at one point in time, the FBI found out he was lying, so they fired him. Well, did Comey tell the FISA court when he sought those warrants to spy? No. He, in fact, vouched for Steele, saying he was credible and reliable, and didn't tell the judges, oh, by the way, we fired him, and oh, by the way, we've also debunked the dossier. No, they used it to manipulate the justice system for surveillance purposes on the Trump campaign. Anyway, I'm gonna jump ship. The same crowd, the same group of lovelies was at it again with the Hunter Biden laptop cover. Same group. Clapper in the lead, Brennan in the lead, 51 and some people. All right, now this is in September-ish of the, late September of the 2020 election. They put together, 51 intel. People say it was all Russian disinformation. Here we go again. Russia. Continues to play. And they continue to lie. And it turns out the FBI had the damn thing and knew all about it, as did other people. And yet this lie and this cover-up and this left-wing media collusion continue. So, I'm just thinking as we're talking about this and I'm reading about this in recent days, I'm like, no wonder President Trump gets pretty angry about this stuff. Here it goes. I mean, you can't blame the guy. I know this is the providential presidency. He's there because God wanted to save him. I get all that. But sometimes you're allowed to get angry. I mean, here it goes all over again. And he believes his own Justice Department should have an objective, analytical view of this whole story. You can't blame him for getting a little angry. Can you, Molly Hemingway? Really?
Well, Larry, not just the president, but a lot of Americans are livid about this as well.
Yes.
And I think it's worth remembering that none of this would be possible without a complicit media that willingly participate in these info ops perpetrated by bad actors in the intelligence community. Some of the same people who uncritically regurgitated the Russia collusion hoax also uncritically regurgitated the lie that Hunter Biden's evidence of family business corruption was a Russian plan, and they do it with other situations as well. They have destroyed Americans' trust, whatever trust they should have had, in the intelligence community because of how they politicize things and because of how the media have gone along with this. And instead of getting awards, they should be ignored, or in fact, I think maybe some of their role in the Russia collusion hoax might need to be investigated.
Yep, need to be investigated. People need to go to fucking jail. People definitely be fired. Definitely be fired.